Welcome, everyone, and happy Easter. My name is Loch Wynn, and I serve on the board of the Fountain Project. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. Almost exactly 1 year ago, Dr. Rosenbaum was here in this exact room presenting Reset and Re-Enter the World of Reopening. Remember that talk? It was a talk where he shared practice tools to rejuvenate our mind and outlook as we were looking to face a world of changes and adaptation. Today, on Easter Sunday, he's back to start off an essential personal practice that I believe will benefit our world in an inconceivable way. Dr. Rosenbaum is a clinical neuropsychologist and psychotherapist in the San Francisco Bay Area. He's a Zen practitioner since 1971. That's like 50 years of practice right there. He is a senior teacher of Wild Goose Qigong at the Wenwu School. He brings a lifetime of practice to the moment-by-moment harmonization of the body, mind, and spirit. And since 1988, he has practiced at the Berkeley Zen Center in the Soto Zen tradition. He sees the sitting meditation of Zazen and the moving meditation of Qigong as two complementary expressions which mutually reinforce the natural practice of the way in ordinary, everyday activity. Also with us today is Jenna. She is an award-winning independent visual editor and creative producer based in Northern California. She has worked for the New Yorker magazine as senior photo editor, where she commissioned and produced original photography for its weekly publication. She has graciously agreed to put her energy towards this special project, from its initial design to organizing and tabulating the countless meditation hours that will flow her way. At the end of Dr. Rosenbaum's talk, she will go over the detail of how to log and submit your meditation time. The Fountain Project organization is deeply grateful to Jenna for taking on this crucial task. Also present is Angela O and Tu Yu. They will be our teachers in 2 weeks. Let me invite Jenna to tell us briefly about the overall project.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna. I'm really happy to be here with you all this morning. And I wanted to just give a sort of high-level reminder about the initiative and sort of the intent and the purpose. I will, as Locke said, kind of go over the logistics towards the end and just remind everybody about how to log and the dates and whatnot. But in terms of that high level kind of overview, practicing peace is a meditation drive. We will raise money for refugees in need by collaborating with Commonweal's Gift of Compassion Migration Support Project. Commonweal is a health and environmental research institute based in Bolinas, California. And they collaborate with Gift of Compassion, which is an initiative founded by Yingming Tu and Angela O, who are on the call and who will be our speakers in 2 weeks' time. They are both Zazen practitioners who offer a host of philanthropic efforts, but one of them is raising funds to provide food, clothing, shelter, and other necessities for a refugee sanctuary in Tijuana, Mexico, called the Foundation for the Gift of Love. This sanctuary provides housing, food, medicine to thousands of refugees from really globally and surprisingly even Ukraine at the current moment. So that is sort of the foundation of where our efforts will go. And I'd imagine that, you know, when Angela and Yingming Tu speak, they can speak a little more about their efforts. But that's a high level summary for you.
Okay. So, shall we start?
Yes, Bob, please. Thank you.
Um, it's wonderful to see you all. I want to start with a quote from Maha Ghosananda, who wrote a book called Step by Step about making peace. And he said, non-action is the source of all action. And so, when we begin to make peace, we begin with silence. So let's start with 5 minutes of silence. No other instructions, nothing special to do. 5 minutes of silence. I'll signal the start with the bell and the end as well. So let me ask a question. Are you at peace this moment? Were you at peace during the last 5 minutes? Did anything disturb the peace? And is anything disturbing it now? Perhaps, perhaps someone started up a leaf blower, or you heard an airplane overhead, or maybe you got an itch. Did those disturb your peace? So the theme of this, we're calling it a meditation drive. I prefer to call it a practice period. I said to Erlene, I don't know, calling it a meditation drive sounds a little contradictory or paradoxical. I must be at peace. Okay, now I'm at peace. Now I'm at peace. There's actually some cartoon recently of Kung Fu Panda shows the panda's master sitting there meditating inner peace, and the panda tries to imitate him, inner peace, and his nose itches, inner peace, inner peace, inner peace, inner peace. If you strive for inner peace, it'll slip away from you. But if you don't practice inner peace, how are you going to find it? This is a question we have all the time. And I've been, as many of us, I've been thinking about peace a great deal lately. And what is peace? It's not so obvious. I mean, we have a kind of assumption, oh, I know what peace is. But we tend to think of it as the absence of something. Peace is when it's not war. Peace is when things are calm and easy and quiet and relaxed. Well, if peace is the absence of something, the only way you can cultivate it is by eliminating everything else. And that's a problem. If you have to be relaxed to be at peace, how can you be at peace when you're practicing your Qigong or your Tai Chi kicks and Shaolin and boxing, and for that matter, in a meditation drive? How about when you're driving your auto or your bicycle? Are you at peace then? So I am not satisfied with peace as just the absence of something. On the other hand, if peace is the presence of something, another problem comes up. Because then it's this, but not that. As soon as it has some inherent quality to it, it's going to be impermanent. Now, in the world of Buddhism, impermanence is one of the most basic truths. So, is peace impermanent? Are we doomed to occasional peace? And really, whether the practice is Buddhist or Christian or Islamic or Jewish, there's an underlying yearning, I'd call it, for peace. In the Christian tradition, it's called the peace that passeth all understanding. And I would like to submit to you that peace is basically our basic nature. It's ungraspable, but that doesn't make it unreal. So in pondering the question of what is peace, I wound up writing a little essay called Peace is Unbroken. And we look around and we see the war in Ukraine, the hatreds that are fomenting in our country, our own agitation. And that kind of agitation comes up easily and frequently. When I was signing on today, I said to Locke, gee, I'm not sure how the bells will sound. And he said, oh, well, there's a setting on your computer that you adjust. It's just right over there. And I went right over there. It wasn't there. I couldn't find it. And so part of me went, oh, did that break my peacefulness? Did it disturb me? Well, if you see somebody beating a child and you're not disturbed, something's wrong with you. But if you see someone beating a child and you speak to the person who's doing the hitting out of agitation, it's not going to do any good. How do you approach them from a sense of peace, which can't be broken by disturbance? So Mahagosananda says, non-action is the source of all action. Well, we think we're either acting or we're not acting, and that's actually not quite right. Non-acting is a kind of action, and action's a kind of non-action. How many acts have you done which have been completely fruitless? Isn't that wonderful? You could say all of our acts are fruitless. They disappear in the eons of time. So you're off the hook, right? Except you're not, because every action has ripples. So here's a question. We think of peace as a lake, still and quiet. And someone throws a rock into the lake. Does that disturb the lake? Actually, if you see ripples on a lake, it's rather beautiful, isn't it? So the water, you can pour dye into a lake and you can turn it red or green or any unpleasant color or pleasant, but the water actually remains clear and uncolored. It just looks colored. When there are storms, we say in Zen, the clouds don't obscure the sky. Now, you might not see the sky when it's cloudy and there's rain and thunderstorms and lightning. The sky is still there. So we often don't see or feel or experience the peace, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So we began with 5 minutes of silence. And before the silence, I rang the bell. And did you all hear the bell? I hope. So now, do you hear the bell? Most of you would say no. There's a place in the Surangama Sutra. I just finished writing a book on the Surangama Sutra, which I found really, really helpful. It'll be coming out this summer. There's a place in the Surangama Sutra where the Buddha rings the bell and he says, "You hear it?" And everyone goes, "Yeah." And the bell fades away and he says, "Now do you hear the bell?" And everyone goes, "No." And he says, "Why are you giving such a wrong answer? You're hearing the fact that the bell is not ringing. Your enlightened basis of hearing includes both sound and the absence of sound. The enlightened basis of our existence includes calm, which is not the same as peace, and conflict, which is not necessarily different from peace. Not the same, not different. So I'm hoping to encourage us over this next practice period of this meditation, call it dedication to peace, to explore what's the foundation of peace that you can act from, that you can trust, that actually can't be taken away from you, but that you can cultivate in ways which are beneficial for all and free ourselves and all beings from suffering. So my plan today is to intersperse some lecture with some meditation and go back and forth between the two. And in the process, I'll introduce various kinds of meditation. Now, some of us, when you practice over the years, I was going to say that it gets easier. I don't know that it gets easier. It gets more and more interesting, like any practice. But for those who are not experienced in meditation, it can be hard to sit quietly for a long time. That doesn't mean that you can't meditate, moving around, and we'll do a little bit of moving meditation as well. I thought that I'd keep the meditations down to about 15, 20 minutes each, so that will be accessible for most people. But a reminder that our dear Master Liu, Shirmu, she would take a week every year and meditate for an entire week. Shirmu's teacher, Master Yang, when she was, I may have the details not quite right, but when she was about 105, 106, said to her family, "Oh, not feeling so good, going to meditate." And she sat down and she meditated, I believe, for 2 or 3 weeks without moving, without eating, without going to the bathroom. They thought she was dead, but they put a little mirror up next to her nose, and they saw, oh, there was still breath coming. And after about 3 weeks, she kind of stretched out, oh, feel much better. Lived another few years. That's a story that's attested to by several people. I don't know, I've never sat without moving, well, completely without moving for more than a few hours at a time. In Zen, we do 7-day and 10-day meditation retreats. Some Vipassana groups will do, 3-4 weeks, months at a time. But we'll start with 20 minutes. But don't worry about how much time there is. Each moment's forever. Meditating for a single moment is meditating for all eternity. That might sound a little mystical. It's actually true. But don't worry about understanding that. What's important is whatever practice you're doing, to do it completely with your whole heart and your whole being. And actually, that's not such a bad definition of peace. Wholeness, complete being and dedication, without worrying about, is it working? Is it helping? People these days are feeling a lot of helplessness. Oh, how is what we're doing here? Oh, so we'll meditate, we'll contribute some money. Is that really going to do anything for the wars of this world? That's not quite the right question. What you're doing right now, at this moment, is an act of generosity. You're giving yourself to this practice. How can it not reverberate in ways that we don't know, we can't predict? But there's, as you experience it, as we do it, there's some inner sense of connectedness. Certainly another aspect of peace. So I thought I'd start with our first meditation by going to an old favorite many of you are, I hope, familiar with, the Metta Sutta. And the nice thing about the Metta Sutta, so metta is loving kindness. It's an inadequate word, really. You could call it our hope for the world. So many of you may have practiced, may all beings be happy, may they be joyous and live in safety. That's part of a larger sutra, not a very long one. And I think I will put it up on the screen for a moment. So let's see if I can share my screen. Here we are. Let's see. Share screen. Well, I'm getting, I think I have to press here. And desktop. And does everyone see metta meditation on the screen? Yes, good. So we'll use this as a meditation. And if you look at the first two lines, this is what should be accomplished by one who is wise, who seeks the good and has obtained peace. Let me just check something. Yeah. This is what should be accomplished by one who is wise, who seeks the good and has obtained peace. Just those words are a meditation in themselves. What we're doing is just this. At this moment, we're seeking the good, which means we're practicing the good, which means we're being peace. Now, a good question to ask as you're doing this is, so who is this one who is wise? So we sit down, we go, okay, being peace. And some little part of our mind goes, really? Is this it? Wait a second, I'm questioning being peace. No, that can't be peaceful. I'm full of doubt. Sure, that's part of being peace. Being peace doesn't mean being dumb, although it can be helpful to be dumb sometimes, to be quiet, to not rely overmuch on the sharpness of intellect. But the one who is wise brought us all here today. And most of us go, well, the one who is wise, I've got to find the one who is wise, right? I'll seek it in a teacher. I'll seek it in meditation until I figure out how I can become wise. But the one who is wise is here, is present, is acting through us. So for this meditation, just commune with the one who is wise. How do you do that? Good question. Asking the question is doing it. See what arises in response. Where can we find wisdom to confront the suffering of the world? Do you despair at finding sufficient wisdom to cope with the suffering of the world? If you're despairing and doubting, at this moment you're suffering. How can you comfort yourself at this moment? And find peace. And fortunately for us, many people before us have walked this same path, and they've given us some hints. And so the next phrases of the Metta Sutta say, let one be strenuous, upright and sincere, without pride, easily contented and joyous. Not a bad definition of peace. when I first encountered these words, I had difficulties with them. I remember thinking, okay, I know how to be strenuous, and I know how to work hard, and I know how to be sincere. I'm not so good at being easily contented and joyous. Well, sometimes I can be easily contented and joyous, but I can't be easily contented and joyous while I'm being strenuous and upright. I mean, one's work and one's ease. How do I bring the two together? And the sutta actually tells us the link between strenuous, upright, and sincere on the one hand, and easily contented and joyous on the other is let go of pride. It's simple. It's not all about me. Just let go of pride and be true and real. So take a few moments and with all your being, strenuously, with all your sense of what's true and right and upright, be happy right now, easily contented and joyous. What's that like? What are you experiencing at this moment? Throughout the experience of meditation, it's helpful to absorb whatever's wholesome, to become familiar and intimate with it. And when difficulties, distractions, problems arise, to smile gently and be kind to them and loosen your grip so that when they're ready, they'll fall away. Let one not be submerged by the things of the world. There's a famous poem, "The world is too much with us." Do you ever feel burdened by the things of the world? Actually, we're not separate from the things of the world. But when we separate ourselves from them, they weigh more on us. How do you not separate yourself from the things of the world, but not drown in it? You all know how to do this. If the other day one of my grandchildren was crying, Her mother had left and she missed her. And at first, I tried to cheer her up. Oh, Mom will be back very soon. Didn't help. Mom was not there. And she wanted her and needed her. And so I held her. That's all. And I felt her sadness. And I wasn't overwhelmed by it because we know how to hold a crying child and know that it's also okay. And yes, it hurts. And it's okay. We know how to reach for that in the middle of tears and sadness. And even when a son or daughter or niece or student goes, I hate you, we know how to be with that and acknowledge it. So there's a way of being engaged, but not over-involved. Full engagement without attachment. At this moment in the meditation, how to be fully engaged in this meditation and not attached to it resulting in anything in particular. There's a way of letting things be which is not resigned to them, but engages with them. There's some practical things. Don't take upon yourself the burden of riches. The more you have to worry about them. To be content with enough. The Tao Te Ching says, the contentment that comes from knowing enough is enough is abiding happiness in the truth. Truth's your friend. May not be pleasant, still a friend. To let your senses be controlled doesn't mean suppressed, doesn't mean indulged. They're just sensations. They're just feelings. Momentary expressions of the weather. Sometimes you need to put on proper clothing to deal with cold, heat, rain, sun. That's how to deal with the senses. To not be puffed up, but wise. Part of being wise is not being puffed up. and not desire great possessions, even for your family. Not because there's anything wrong with great possessions, but as soon as you possess something, it has a hold on you. Possession is close kin to obsession. We can exorcise our greed with happiness. And sometimes when it's not so easy to cultivate all these wholesome qualities, to just ease off from doing anything mean. Just, you can't get out of this world without doing some harm, but do as little harm as possible. That helps. It actually feels good to know that you're doing your best to avoid harm. And having eased your burdens, to just say to yourself, may all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. So, to just abide with that feeling, thought, image. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. May all beings be happy. Is that possible? Yes. But happiness is not a feeling. Feelings come and go. Happiness is a way of being. To be truly yourself is happiness. May all beings realize themselves. One way of rephrasing this, may I assist the self-becoming of all beings. How do you help each being be itself truly? And the meditation goes, all living beings. That's the key. No exceptions. All living beings, whether weak or strong, in high or middle or low realms of existence. In Buddhism, this meant animals, people, gods. presidents, kings, queens, homeless people, middle-class people, workers, bosses, small or great, visible or invisible, whether I like them or not, near or far, in Ukraine or Russia, in my hometown or in Washington, D.C., born or to be born, may all beings be happy. And notice what comes out. How do you find peace? In the midst of this, in the midst of its impossibility and its inevitability. May I not deceive anybody. May I not despise anybody in any state. May I not by anger or hatred wish harm to another. Be truthful. Be tolerant. Patient. Kind. Loving. Feels good. It's natural. Even as a mother at the risk of her child watches over and protects her only child, even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around without limit, cultivating an infinite goodwill towards the whole world. In verse 10, I think, of the Tao Te Ching, it says, when carrying on your active life, can you be like a mother bird? Can you embrace the quiet spirit between your arms? And here's another hint for being peace. You can tune your computer not just to the webcams and the images from Ukraine and Yemen and political capitals, but there are webcams in birds' nests. Yesterday, a friend shared with me a mother eagle feeding her young. And that mother eagle was pretty fierce looking. You can be fierce in your approach to peace, so long as you're also kind. When carrying on your active life, can you embrace the quiet spirit in your arms without letting it wander away? While being fully focused on your breath, can you let it be soft as a baby? Can you light up the world without knowing anything special? Don't need to know anything special. Coming back to the Metta Sutta. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down during all one's waking hours, let one practice the way with gratitude. So if sitting has been long enough, you can continue sitting if you want, but you can also get up and meditate while you're walking. Just take a step, find yourself where you are, cultivate a sense of gratitude for the earth underfoot, for the beating heart, for the space that surrounds you. Thich Nhat Hanh said, peace is every step. You can reach for peace with the soles of your feet, with the folds of your ears, with the top of your head, with the spaces in the body. Sitting, lying down. Gravity keeps us from flying away. And we think gravity is a force, but it's not. It's a relationship. Everything pulls towards everything else, connects us. During all one's waking hours, and I would say during all one's sleeping hours as well, you can try tonight as you fall asleep, dedicate your sleeping mind to the welfare of all beings with gratitude. Abandoning vague discussions endowed with insight, the inner sense of there's an inner compass free from craving. Not caught between self and other, good, bad, birth, death. Liberated from the cycle of creation of suffering for ourselves or others. Being peace is just looking for liberation together with all beings. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous, so that we, together with all beings, realize the blossoming of true peace. So, the meditation went on a bit longer than I had planned. My apologies. Maybe that's a good place to pause. And I don't know if there have been questions. There's a lot to work with in the Metta Sutta, isn't there? Lifelong exploration. One way of practicing over the next few weeks is just take a line from it and live with it. How do I realize this when I'm driving, when I'm making dinner, when I'm talking to my partner, when I'm listening? Really listening is a good way of approaching peace. I think I'd like to take a few moments to just see if there's any questions and discussion. And if not, we can just sit here quietly for a bit.
Hi, Bob. This is Ivy.
Hi, Ivy.
Yeah, I would like to ask because like today the participant most like adult, how to help teenager. And especially right now, I'm help high school student, also college student. I feel pandemic has huge impact for them because we have residents.
Huge impact on them. It's interesting because just a day or two ago, I was consulting to a university counseling center, and they deal with young people just past teenagehood, and we were talking about one of the difficulties of teenagers and young adults is everything feels like it's forever and so intense, and it's just very hard to get a sense of perspective. When things look bad, they look like doom, and you just haven't had enough life experience yet to sort of modulate it. Plus, the neurons of the frontal lobes aren't fully developed and all. I think the best way of helping them, the best I've been able to discover, was when took me a while. I'll tell you two stories. One was one of my daughters had a pretty difficult teenage period. And at a certain point, she just refused to talk to me. For several months, she would not say a word to me. And, we did therapy and things like that. And we decided, okay, we have to spend 1 hour every 2 weeks or something together. And if she didn't say anything, fine. And I tried everything. I tried writing to her. I tried joking with her. I tried going to movies. I tried this. I tried that. None of it worked. She was just... And then one day I was with her and I lost it. And all of my psychology and all of my Buddhist meditation and everything, I just lost it. And I went, I have no idea how to get through to you. I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this. I have no idea. I'm completely stumped. And she turned to me and she went, good. Now we can start to have a relationship.
So she wants you to be vulnerable.
Yes. Well, she wanted me to acknowledge that I didn't know anything about what was going on with her life, that I didn't know her, and that I couldn't know her. And to first acknowledge, you are living in a different world than I lived in. And I don't know how it's all going to turn out for you. And I don't know what you should do. But then the second thing is, after a few years, we reconciled and I was getting along pretty well with my daughters, and they would call me and ask for advice, you know? And I made the mistake of trying to give them advice. Boy, was that a mistake. And of course, whenever I did, they didn't even get mad. You know, they would say, oh no, I've tried that. No, that won't work. No, you don't understand. And what I learned to say was, I don't know. And I realized I honestly didn't know. I said, but you know what? I trust you. I trust you're going to figure this out. And if you make a decision and it's wrong, you'll learn from it. And if you make a decision and it seems to be working well, you'll go with it. And I trust you. And that's what teenagers and young adults don't have these days. They've lost all sense of trust in both themselves and the world. And to the extent that we can convey trust, they really need that.
But how the parents have the trust if they don't trust?
Accept the fact that your child may totally screw up and die.
Okay.
Sorry. That's real. Sometimes, you know, I'll consult with agencies and they'll say, you know, what do we, you say trust them, but what do we do when a teenager comes in and says, I want to kill myself? Yeah. And there are certain things you do as a therapist. Do you have a gun? Do you have, you know, but the main thing, after I find out that they don't have a gun, is to say, well, have you written your obituary? And they go, what? Well, how do you want people to remember you? And what's your belief about the afterlife? Do you believe there is an afterlife? And usually what they do is they just go, they haven't thought it through as this is what it all involves. You know, and what about if you do happen to survive? I've seen a lot of people try to kill themselves and they survive. You know, what will that be like? And as soon as you get into the actual reality of, well, what about this and what about that? And once it becomes real and concrete, they usually go, well, wait a second, I need to think about this a little bit more, which is good. It's just being real and truthful and matter of fact and not pretending. Teenagers, young adults, they hate pretending. If you feel scared, you say, I feel scared. Just be real. And pray a lot, because some of them won't make it. And then say, you know, if you kill yourself, I'll feel very sad. But I cannot, I'll do my best to prevent you, but ultimately, you'd be able to do this if you were really serious about it. I can't stop you. I'll do my best. It's real.
But what age? Because for like I'm Chinese, right? I never saw therapy until the company provided EAP program. I think it's good, but when I should like for we should introduce the kids, say, hey, it's like a healthy check, regular check, mental check. When we should introduce those source to kids, you know, don't wait to have problem, right? If you already suffer, it's like suffer a long time.
Yes. Well, I think whenever there's something which could be helpful, you introduce them to it. And it's tricky because on the one hand, you want to convey to them the sense of it's not that I think there's something wrong with you, you know, because that gives them a problem. But there's an awful lot of things which in therapy, they're helpful and nobody else has ever talked to them about it. You know, one thing which works pretty well is you say, well, let me ask you a question. Do you want to be exactly like me and your father when you grow up? And almost any teenager will go, no! Say, well, maybe you should talk to somebody other than us. They might offer you some other options which you haven't run into before. It's, you know, which is true.
But as a parent, like, sorry.
So the issue that I think you're really asking is when you see your teenagers struggling, how can you be at peace with their struggles when they're terribly unhappy? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good question. We're getting into the territory of how can you accept the fact that there's a lot of difficulties and stay at peace in the midst of difficulties. And I would say start with being at peace in the midst of your own difficulties. Not so easy. Not so easy. The other day I was, you know, trying to put something into the wall and the molly screws weren't working. And I went, wow, I'm not at peace with the molly screws not working. If I can't be at peace with the molly screws not working, how am I going to be at peace with my daughters struggling with, you know, their children and their work and their, and it's a knack. We have to develop that ability to be at peace in all these little things. And the more they see that we're at peace, the more they will learn how to do that themselves. I really believe that modeling is crucial for our teenagers. Ultimately, be happy. Yeah. Big questions. Lifelong working at it. Does that?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, being peace comes out in all these very specific ways. I'll just say one other thing about teenagers. I have a rather vivid memory of getting out of work early to go home to take my teenager to something or another. And as I was driving, I was thinking, I know she's not going to be there. You know, she, you know, she's been rebellious and she's not going to be there and she's not going to be cooperative. And I was getting so mad, and I was driving there, and I got there, and there she was, perfectly ready to go, just fine. I went, why was I doing that? All that anticipating and stoking of anger and tension. Um, the more we can be open and take things as they come, one at a time, that's also a key to peace. I want to be careful because I know
We have 9 more minutes. Luck on me.
Yeah, and I know Jenna, I think, had some things to say, and
Yes, I'll go ahead and thank you so much for that. That was lovely, Dr. Rosenbaum. I wanted to go ahead and just review sort of the weeks that are coming and how everybody should be logging their hours. I think probably the best way to do that is to share my screen and just go through the website so that everybody, we can look at it together. Can everybody see my screen, which is the Fountain Project website?
Yes.
Great. So this is a really great kind of home page if you want to refresh your memory as to how these weeks will go. We went ahead and highlighted where the flyer lives, which is really just this information on this landing page in a PDF form. And then we also highlighted the meditation log, which I'll go through in a moment, but both of them are up here at the top. You'll see the top of the page just reiterates information about Gift of Compassion, and particularly their migration support project, which is in conjunction with Commonweal. I've linked to Commonweal in the top paragraph there if you're interested to learn more about that organization. When it comes to the schedule, just please keep in mind that we will only meet every other week. So today is obviously April 17th. The next time we gather is May 1st, during which time Angela O and Yingming Tu will teach. We then, the 24th, April 24th and May 8th are just moments to guide yourself via meditation. And then we'll gather once more on May 15th. We're excited because Michael Lerner, co-founder of Commonweal, will join us to sort of give us an update as to how the drive has gone. The Zoom link that we use today is a standing link for all 3 of the sessions. And when it comes to the meditations, I wanted to talk a few things. First is that, so Fountain Project will be donating $2.50 for every 15 minutes that each of us meditates to the Migration Support Project. We ask that you meditate at least 15 minutes per session, and the maximum is 60 minutes per day. You can commit to as many days as you like from this start day of April 17th through May 15th. Should you have questions along the way, please feel free to email me. When it comes to the actual meditation, we are very open to a variety of practices, whether that be sitting meditation or standing meditation or movement-based practices like Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga. I think as long as the sort of stillness of mind is a factor, we want to sort of keep it open in terms of what types of practices. When it comes to the form and submitting your hours, let me try to share. Can you guys see this form now? Did it change?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. So this is the form. We are asking that you submit your tabs twice. once on April 25th and once on May 16th, which is the Monday following our final session. And that's just that we can keep track of things and really have a good update for everybody on the 15th as to where we stand. We'll then, send a final update in terms of the funds that were raised. But here is the form you can use. We're asking for one form per person. This is completely confidential information. And you'll just see that we're asking for obviously your name and your email, the date and the time, the type of meditation, and then the number of minutes completed. You can fill this out electronically. So this is a PDF, so you can enter the information electronically and you can send it to me via an email. You can print this and handwrite it and either scan it and send it to me or send it in its hard copy form to the Wenwu School. The address is here. Obviously, this is somewhat limited in its fields. So if you want to handwrite on the back, if you want to include some information in the body of an email, if you run out of space, as long as you are communicating this key information, which is your name, the date, the time, and the type of meditation. Those are the important informations that we want to capture. I think that essentially does it. I was wondering if anybody has questions on any of this or things I could clarify.
Jenna, I'd like to say something about that.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a really good way of motivating yourself, but make sure to practice peace in regard to how you're doing it. And it's not a matter of quantity. I mean, it's good to do as much as you can, but if you say, okay, I'm going to do this much, and then you fight with yourself about it, that's not what this is about. So be honest with yourself. I can do this, and I'm going to do this, and then do it, and you'll be at peace with it. Someone once asked my Zen teacher, says, read about these people who meditate like 24 hours a day for 6 years in a cave, what makes a good student? I mean, and my teacher said, well, if on December 31st, you say, okay, this next year, I'm going to meditate every day for 3 hours, and every single day in that year, you meditate for 3 hours. And then on the very last day, you meditate for 2 hours and 59 minutes because you figure, hey, I did pretty good. You're a bad student. But if you say, sometime this year, I'm going to meditate for 1 minute, and you don't meditate at all during the year, but before the year is up, you meditate for 1 minute, then you're a good student. The key is being faithful to your commitment. Everything else follows from that. But do it as much as you can.
Does anyone have any questions about the process? If you do, if you start, if you leave this meeting and in the coming weeks and days, please feel free to email me, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Jenna, for all you're doing here. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Thank you to Dr. Rosenbaum, and looking forward to hearing about your book. Be sure to come back on May 1st to be with Angela O and Yingming Tu. I also noticed Dr. Lerner is online. Looking forward to his update next month. Wishing you all a great week, and see you in 2 weeks.